Hi, Queens. Today, I want to talk about making yourself a priority in your schedule. Most women rebuilding their lives after 40 make the same mistake. They try to fit their new dreams into that narrow gap of their old life. They are trying to be a phoenix while still living in the old nest. If you feel exhausted, overwhelmed, or like a hamster running in place, it's not because you aren't capable. It's because your schedule hasn't caught up to your new identity. Today, I'm showing you the exact template I use in my coaching framework to flip the script. You cannot build a high performing future on a low battery. So, I want you to think about your time as currency. And quite frankly, it is more valuable than money. We can always make more money. We have yet to figure out how to make more time. When you were married, you had a shared resource of time. But understand post divorce, your time is no longer a shared resource, it's your capital. And as Rachel Rogers would say, women have been socialized to be time generous to everyone but themselves. So in this next chapter, you are the CEO of your life. And a CEO never asks permission to protect her most valuable asset, her energy. If your body is tired, your story about what's possible will be small. So we change the body to change the story. And what does your body need right now? We know it needs fuel. It absolutely needs rest. And it also needs movement. And none of those are negotiable. So here is the exact template that I use. And I've broken it down into three different categories. The first is your restoration, your self care module. Then you have your professional focus. And I also call this your high creative space. And then you have your maintenance and your logistics. Those are the things that just have to get done. So if we start with your self care module, your self care block, understand that this is absolutely the first thing you've got to do. This is your non-negotiable fuel. Okay? So it's not luxury, it's necessary. It includes movement, meditation, it could be journaling, and it can also be just silence. Especially for you high performing, high functioning, overachieving women, and those of you who are moms as well, sometimes you just need a piece of silence. And that's what this space is. So if you don't schedule your green time, your restoration time, you are essentially scheduling your burnout. The next section is your high value creation time, or it may say professional focus. This is really where you are being creative. It's your time for thought and focus. And the idea here is this is not for chores. This is for building your legacy, whether it's a business, a plan, a novel, or just mapping out your family's new financial future. This is your space. This is where the phoenix comes to life. Okay. So this is some deep work that moves the needle on your soul. Then the last phase is the maintenance block. Now, here we want to group these activities together so that you don't have leaks. You don't want anything that's maintenance spilling into your restoration time or spilling into your high creative time. And these are things like answering emails, doing the laundry, running errands, anything that is your administrative part of your life. This is even your work. If you are working outside the house, this is your work outside of the house. If you are a stay at home mom, this is all the things that you do during the day. But this is not these are things that have to be done, absolutely, but you wanna schedule these things so that they don't bleed into the rest of your time, and they feel productive, but you also don't wanna make the mistake of being busy with being productive, or confuse the 2 rather. You don't wanna confuse being busy with being productive. So keep these tasks moving, set them up and acknowledge them and make sure they don't bleed into your other task. One of the things I think is just so important and really will set the trajectory for your entire day is that first hour. And that's where we can really get in mind, body, and spirit alignment. And that's one of the things I talked with my guest today on the podcast. And the podcast was the Revenge Body. And we talked about that mind, body, and spirit with Jen Kramer, who is a health coach and a menopause coach, and how I work with my clients in designing their ideal week and their ideal day is to make sure that they block out specific times, like we just talked about, for restoration. And just to give you an idea of what I do for my restoration period, that first hour of the day is spent in meditation. The first 5 minutes is spent in silence. And that's just me and my thoughts and just listening and being quiet and being grateful to be here for another day so that I can start living my purpose. Then I do my meditation and then I do a workout. And it could be either some weightlifting or some stretching and also walking. And so those are the things that I do the first part, just so that I can have that experience of being mindful and intentional about how I start my day. And it's one of the things that I remember growing up. I was always just so interested. My mother always got up so early in the morning. And I was like, Mom, why do you wake up so early? And she said to me, that is the only time that I get to be alone. And so that was her reset time. She was a math teacher. She had 3 kids and she was just a very busy woman. And having that time for herself, she needed it. That was her restoration period. That was her self care. And while I was growing up, it didn't make that much sense to me. But once I became a mother, it made a lot of sense. And that is something that is just so important that we all have that time to ourselves to set ourselves up for a fantastic day. And we do that by prioritizing our needs first thing in the morning. So don't just watch this and think, oh, yeah, that was a nice idea. Remember, success follows action. Take this time to block out your calendar and include your restoration time that needs to come first and it needs to be non negotiable. And if you're ready to stop negotiating with your schedule and start designing your next chapter with a guide who's been there, click the link in my bio, book a clarity call, and let's look at your schedule together. Subscribe for more insights on rising from the ashes. And remember, until next time, this is your season to rise.